I spent $3,600 on my niece's party, but my son, who worked for weeks, wasn't invited. It started with a phone call, as these things usually do. The familiar knot formed in my stomach as my sister's name flashed across my screen. Lorraine always had perfect timing, calling precisely when I was feeling good about myself, my life, or my parenting. By the time we hung up, that feeling would inevitably be replaced by a creeping sense of inadequacy. I answered anyway. "Hey, Lore." "Amelia," she sobbed into the phone. I immediately sat up straighter, maternal instinct kicking in despite our complicated relationship. Everything's ruined. Absolutely ruined. This wasn't her usual performance of subtle superiority. Genuine distress colored her voice, and I found myself actually concerned. "What happened? Is Chloe okay?" At the mention of her daughter's name, Lorraine's sobs intensified. "It's her Sweet 13 party. The venue just called. They're doubling their price because of some plumbing emergency. We have to move everything, but everywhere else is booked. She's been planning this for months, Amelia. You know how important this is to her." I did know. My niece Chloe had been talking about her 13th birthday party since she turned 12. In our family, Chloe's milestones weren't just celebrated, they were coronations. My parents, our extended family, even our communities seemed to orbit around her achievements and special moments. "That's terrible," I said, automatically slipping into my supportive sister role. "Maybe you could scale back a little, do something more intimate." The silence that followed might as well have been a scream. "Scale back?" Lorraine's voice dropped to a horrified whisper, as if I'd suggested canceling Christmas. "Do you have any idea how hard Chloe has worked for this? How many straight-A report cards? How many dance recitals she's starred in? She deserves this, Amelia." I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. This was classic Lorraine. In her world, my niece's accomplishments were extraordinary feats, deserving elaborate rewards, while my son Aiden's achievements were cute hobbies at best. From the corner of my eye, I could see Aiden at the dining table. Headphones on, fingers flying across his keyboard as lines of code filled his screen. At 16, he was already taking college-level programming courses. Just last week, he'd created a virtual reality program that took users through our family's ancestral homeland, a project that had moved me to tears. But when I'd shown it to Lorraine, she'd smiled politely and quickly changed the subject to Chloe's latest dance competition. "I wasn't suggesting she doesn't deserve a nice party," I said carefully. "Just that maybe there are creative solutions that don't break the bank." "The budget is already stretched," Lorraine continued, ignoring my suggestion. "Clark's bonus wasn't as big as we expected this quarter, and with the venue change, her voice trailed off, meaningfully. And there it was, the real purpose of the call. I should have seen it coming from a mile away. Every family has their roles, and mine had always been the responsible one, or, as I sometimes bitterly thought of it, the family ATM. While Lorraine had married wealthy Clark and lived in their sprawling home in the best school district, I had built my marketing business from the ground up after my divorce from Aiden's father. I lived comfortably but modestly, saving carefully for Aiden's college fund. Yet somehow, when financial emergencies struck, all eyes turned to me. "How much are we talking about, Laura?" I asked, already mentally shuffling my budget around. "Well," she hesitated, but not from shame. She was simply calculating. With the new venue, extra decorations to make it work with the garden theme, and the catering change, about $3,600. I nearly choked. "Dollars? Lorraine? That..." "I know it sounds like a lot," she rushed in. "But this is her big entrance into her teenage years, Amelia. You remember how hard that age was? I want her to feel special, to know her family supports her dreams." I glanced again at Aiden, who had removed one earbud and was watching me with those perceptive eyes that always saw too much. He raised an eyebrow in silent question, and I shook my head slightly. "Let me think about it," I said to Lorraine. "There's nothing to think about," she replied, voice suddenly bright. The tears had vanished as quickly as they'd appeared, replaced by her confident, planning tone. "Family helps family. Besides, Aiden could help with some of the technical stuff for the party. It would be good for him to get involved, don't you think? Get him socializing more." The casual criticism stung. Aiden wasn't unsocial. He just chose his companions carefully and preferred depth to breadth in his relationships. But Lorraine had always seen his thoughtfulness as a flaw rather than a strength. "I'll call you back," I said firmly, and hung up before she could bulldoze me further. Aiden removed his other earbud. "Let me guess. Hurricane Chloe needs funding?" I smiled despite myself. "You heard," he shrugged. "Enough? You've got that Lorraine wants money crease between your eyebrows." He pointed to his own forehead to demonstrate. I sighed and moved to sit across from him, at the table. "It's her 13th birthday party. Apparently, it's a whole production." "The Sweet 13 extravaganza," Aiden nodded. "Chloe's only been posting countdown updates for the last 97 days. Not that I'm counting." I couldn't help but notice that we hadn't done anything nearly so elaborate for Aiden's 13th birthday. He'd asked for a weekend camping trip with his 2 best friends and a new graphics card. We'd roasted marshmallows under the stars, and he'd told me it was perfect. "They want $3,600, I said, watching his reaction carefully. His eyes widened briefly before he controlled his expression. "That's a lot of money, Mom." "It is," I agreed, "but your aunt says they're in a bind with the venue change, and family helps family." Even as I repeated Lorraine's words, I felt a twinge of discomfort. How often had she reciprocated when we needed help? Aiden was quiet for a moment, his fingers absently tracing patterns on his laptop. "You know," he said finally, "I could actually help make it pretty cool. I've been working on some interactive projection mapping that would be perfect for a garden party theme. It would save them hiring an expensive lighting crew." I blinked in surprise. "You'd want to help?" He shrugged again, but I could see the spark of interest in his eyes. When it came to technology, my son couldn't resist a challenge. Could be a good portfolio piece. Plus, Chloe's friends would probably post it everywhere. Free advertising for when I start taking commissions. My clever, practical boy, always thinking ahead. "That's very generous of you," I said softly. "It's just code, Mom." But he looked pleased at the compliment. Something warm unfurled in my chest. Despite everything, despite Lorraine's subtle put-downs and the family's dismissal of his quieter talents, Aiden had grown into someone who could still extend kindness to those who didn't always appreciate him. I picked up my phone and dialed Lorraine back. "We'll do it," I said when she answered. "I'll transfer the money tomorrow." And Aiden's offered to do some special lighting and digital effects for the party. Lorraine's squeal of delight made me hold the phone away from my ear. "Amelia, I knew you'd come through. You always do. And how sweet of Aiden to help. Chloe will be absolutely thrilled." Somehow, I doubted that. Chloe treated Aiden with the same benign neglect that her mother showed him, acknowledging his existence with distant politeness, but never really seeing him. Still, I hoped this might be a chance for that to change. "I'll have him connect with you about what he needs to make it happen," I said. "Perfect. I'll tell Chloe right away. This party is going to be the event of the year, Amelia. Everyone who matters will be there." As I hung up, Aiden gave me a knowing look. "You caved." "I did," I admitted, "but with conditions. You're part of this production now. Official tech director." He grinned, already turning back to his laptop, fingers poised over the keyboard. "Challenge accepted. Let's see if we can make Cousin Chloe's mouth actually drop open for once." I watched him dive into work, already sketching out ideas and muttering code snippets to himself. $3,600 was a significant sum, money that could have gone toward Aiden's college fund or maybe even a family vacation we'd been postponing. But seeing the enthusiasm with which he attacked this new project, I told myself it was worth it. This was an investment in family harmony, in building bridges. What I didn't know then was how thoroughly those bridges would burn in the weeks to come. The following 3 weeks transformed our home into what Aiden jokingly called Party Command Central. Our dining table disappeared under sketches, programming notes, and small electronic components that he assured me were essential. Every evening after school, he would hunker down with a focus that amazed me, often working until I insisted he get some sleep. "Just one more animation sequence," he'd say, eyes never leaving the screen. "I want the Bythus to react to people's movements when they walk through the garden entrance." I'd watch him work, marveling at how his fingers could translate imagination into reality. He wasn't just creating light displays. He was building and experience interactive projections that would transform Lorraine's hastily secured garden venue into an enchanted wonderland. Digital butterflies that would follow guests along pathways. flowers that would bloom as people approached, and a custom photo booth that would place Chloe's friends into fantastical scenes they could instantly share online. "You're putting a lot into this," I observed one night, setting a mug of hot chocolate beside him. Aiden shrugged, but I could see the quiet pride in his posture. "It's cool tech, and Chloe's friends will go nuts for the social media integration." The first Saturday after accepting the project, we drove to Lorraine's house with Aiden's laptop and some equipment to test the venue space. Lorraine greeted us at the door in her designer athleisure wear, phone in hand. "Oh, you're here early," she said, as if we hadn't texted our arrival time twice. "Chloe's just finishing her dance practice. Come around back. The landscapers are setting up the foundation today." We followed her through the immaculate house to the sprawling backyard, where workers were indeed constructing a temporary platform near the rose garden. Lorraine immediately began directing them on placement, leaving us standing awkwardly with our equipment. Aiden quietly set up his laptop on a garden table and began taking measurements of the space with a laser tool. I noticed his methodical approach, taking notes, testing sightlines, occasionally nodding to himself. 15 minutes later, Chloe emerged from the house in her dance outfit, followed by 3 friends. They giggled together, barely acknowledging our presence as they crossed the lawn to the pool house. "Hey Chloe," Aiden called with a small wave. "I was hoping to talk to you about some of the effects you want for the party." Chloe paused, looking momentarily trapped before plastering on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, hi Aiden. I'm kind of busy right now with choreography practice. Can you just make it look cool?" One of her friends whispered something, and they all erupted into poorly concealed laughter. "Sure," he said, his expression unchanged. "Cool, got it." As they disappeared into the pool house, I placed a hand on Aiden's shoulder. He shook his head slightly, his signal that he didn't want to talk about it. Throughout the day, Lorraine fluttered between supervising the workers, taking calls, and occasionally glancing at what Aiden was doing. Not once did she ask about his plans or express interest in his work. When he showed her a sample animation of glowing lanterns that would appear to float above the dance area, she merely nodded and said, "As long as it doesn't interfere with the photographer's lighting." Later that afternoon, my mother stopped by to drop off some table linens Lorraine had borrowed. I was helping Aiden set up a test projection when I overheard their conversation near the kitchen door. "It's coming together beautifully," my mother gushed. "Chloe must be over the moon." "She deserves it," Lorraine replied. "Did you see the video of her solo performance? The dance instructor says she's the most naturally talented student she's had in years." "She's always been a star," Mom agreed. "How are Amelia and Aiden helping?" "I heard they were here today." There was a pause, and I slowed my movements to listen. "Well, Amelia's handling some of the financial aspects," Lorraine said vaguely. "And Aiden's doing something with computers. At least Chloe's party will have some sophistication, unlike Amelia's son who just tinkers with gadgets all day." The casual dismissal hit me like a physical blow. I glanced quickly at Aiden, hoping he hadn't heard, but the slight stiffening of his shoulders told me otherwise. Yet he continued working, connecting cables with steady hands that betrayed none of the hurt I knew he must be feeling. Over the next 2 weeks, Aiden worked tirelessly. He hand-drew digital welcome screens featuring Chloe's favorite colors and themes. He programmed custom music visualizations that would pulse with the DJ's beats. He even created personalized digital name cards for each guest that would display fun facts about them when scanned with a phone. Through it all, Lorraine and Chloe remained oblivious to the hours he was investing, the care he was taking with every detail. When they did interact with him, it was to change requests last minute, or question whether his computer stuff would actually work. "Are you sure this won't glitch?" Lorraine asked during our final test run, frowning at the magical forest scene Aiden had created. Chloe would be devastated if anything went wrong. "It'll work," he said simply, though I knew he'd been testing and retesting every component for days. Each night when we drove home, I expected Aiden to complain or show frustration. Instead, he would talk excitedly about new ideas, technical challenges he'd overcome, or improvements he was planning. His passion for the project seemed untouched by their indifference. But I knew my son. Behind his calm exterior and technical focus, their words were accumulating, small cuts that would eventually form a wound too deep to ignore. 2 days before the party, everything was finally coming together. The garden venue had been transformed with elegant white tents, fairy lights strung between trees, and stations for Aiden's digital installations positioned strategically throughout the space. My bank account was considerably lighter, but I told myself the family goodwill was worth it. That afternoon, Aiden and I made our final trip to Lorraine's house to install the remaining equipment. While I helped the catering manager sort out last-minute menu changes, another small expense Lorraine had added to my tab, Aiden worked on calibrating the projectors and finalizing the programming for Chloe's grand entrance sequence. A spectacular display that would cast her silhouette in gold light before revealing her to her guests. "Where do you want me to put the backup system?" Aiden asked Lorraine as she swept through the garden, clipboard in hand. "Just in case there's any technical issues, I can switch everything over within seconds." Lorraine barely looked up from her list. "Wherever is out of sight, I suppose. The caterers need that corner table now." I watched Aiden's face carefully mask his reaction as he nodded and moved his equipment to an even more cramped space behind one of the speakers. He'd been doing that a lot lately, hiding his feelings behind a neutral expression that worried me more than any outburst would have. By early evening, we were nearly finished. Aiden had just completed a full system test when I found him staring at his phone, a strange expression on his face. "Everything okay?" I asked, setting down the box of extension cords I'd been carrying. He looked up, hesitated, then handed me his phone. "Chloe just posted on her Instagram story. Check it out." I scrolled through a series of photos showing the party preparations, each one carefully filtered and captioned with excited text about the most amazing party ever. Then I came to a post that made me stop. A beautifully designed graphic with the title "The Official Suite 13 Guest List. Tag yourself if you made the cut." Below was a scrolling list of names, at least 50 of them, with emojis and inside jokes next to each one. I scrolled through it twice, my heart sinking as I confirmed what Aiden had already discovered. His name wasn't on it. I handed the phone back, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Maybe she forgot to add you. You've been so involved in the planning. She probably just assumed." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. This wasn't an oversight. The list was meticulously crafted, even organized into categories like Dance Squad, Lake House Crew, and VIPs. Aiden pocketed his phone with a small shrug that broke my heart. "It's not a big deal, Mom. I'm just the tech guy." "This is unacceptable," I said, anger building in my chest. "After everything you've done." "Please don't make it weird," he interrupted, his voice low. "I'd rather not go anyway. Those aren't my people." I wanted to respect his wishes, but the injustice was too much. While Aiden finished packing up his toolkit, I found Lorraine in the kitchen, going over place cards with Chloe. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I asked, my tone making it clear this wasn't optimal. Lorraine glanced up, annoyed at the interruption. "We're kind of in the middle of something important here, Amelia." "It's important too," I insisted, nodding toward the back patio. After a dramatic sigh, she followed me outside. "What's so urgent?" she asked, checking her watch. "The rental company is coming in an hour to adjust the tent heights." I cut straight to the point. Aiden just saw Chloe's guest list post. He's not on it. I expected embarrassment, perhaps even remorse. Instead, Lorraine's expression showed only mild irritation. "Oh, that," she said, as casually as if she were commenting on the weather. "Chloe just thought it would be awkward. He's not really her crowd, you know." A dismissive wave of her hand as she said it made my blood boil. "Not her crowd? Lorraine, he's been working for weeks on this party. He's created everything that's going to make it special. And he's her cousin." Lorraine had the audacity to look offended. "I thought he was just doing the technical setup. It's not like we expected him to actually attend. He wouldn't enjoy it anyway. It's going to be all dancing and socializing." She lowered her voice to add, "You know how he is." "How he is?" I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. "You mean thoughtful, creative, generous enough to spend countless hours making your daughter's party memorable, even though you've barely acknowledged his contributions?" Lorraine's expression hardened. "Don't be dramatic, Amelia. This isn't about Aiden. It's about Chloe. It's her special day, and she should be surrounded by people who make her feel comfortable." She glanced toward the house, then added with false sweetness, "We'll be sure to credit him in the thank you notes." I felt like I'd been slapped. Before I could respond, the patio door slid open and Aiden stepped out. The animations are all set, he said quietly. I've left instructions for the DJ on how to trigger the sequences. He handed Lorraine a neatly labeled folder. Everything's pretty much foolproof. An uncomfortable silence fell as Lorraine took the folder, clearly wondering how much he had overheard. Thank you, Aiden, she said stiffly. That's very helpful. Chloe appeared in the doorway then, her face lighting up when she saw her mother. Mom, Emma says she can't come now. That ruins the entire entrance dance formation. She stopped short when she noticed Aiden and me, her smile faltering slightly. Oh, hey! Hey, Aiden replied. Congratulations on your party. The effects are all ready to go. Chloe nodded vaguely, already turning back to her mother. Mom, we need to call Sophia right now to see if she can learn Emma's part. As they hurried back inside without another word to us, I placed my hand on Aiden's shoulder. Let's go home. On the drive back, Aiden stared out the window, his expression unreadable in the fading light. I'm so sorry, I began, but he cut me off. It's fine, he said. Let them have their party. But the quiet resignation in his voice told me it was anything but fine. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the look on Aiden's face when he handed Lorraine those instructions, polite, distant, and carefully devoid of emotion. It was a mask he'd perfected over years of family gatherings where his achievements were overshadowed by Chloe's more flamboyant accomplishments. By 3 in the morning, I'd made up my mind. I threw off the covers, grabbed my laptop, and began drafting an email to Lorraine. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I outlined exactly how I felt about her treatment of Aiden, how deeply disappointing her behavior had been, and how I was withdrawing all technical support for the party. I would demand a refund of my $3,600 money that had been given under the assumption that family meant something to her. I was just about to hit send when a soft knock came at my bedroom door. Mom, you awake? Aiden's voice was barely audible. Come in, I called, closing my laptop guiltily. He pushed the door open and leaned against the frame, hair tousled from his own restless night. At 16, he was already taller than me, but in that moment, with his old NASA t-shirt and uncertain expression, he looked younger. Can't sleep either, he asked. I shook my head. I'm writing to Aunt Lorraine. I'm pulling the plug on everything. The money, the equipment, all of it. Aiden was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed the room and sat on the edge of my bed. Don't, he said simply. Why not? After how they treated you. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Because that's what they'd expect. Aunt Lorraine already thinks I'm socially awkward and that you overreact about everything. If we pull out now, that story becomes true in everyone's mind. I stared at him, surprised by his insight. So, we just let them get away with it? Let Chloe have her perfect party using your work, your creativity, after explicitly excluding you? I'm not saying do nothing, he replied, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. I'm saying let them have exactly the party they deserve. There was something in his tone that made me pause. What are you thinking? He shrugged. Nothing dramatic, but the system needs someone who knows what they're doing to run it smoothly. The DJ won't know how to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. Understanding dawned, and you're the only one who knows how it all works. Exactly. He met my eyes. I could make sure everything runs perfectly, or I could not. For a moment, I was tempted. It would be so satisfying to let Lorraine's perfect party fall apart, to let her experience even a fraction of the hurt she'd caused my son. But the thought made me uncomfortable too. Aiden, I don't want you to be vindictive. That's not who you are. It's not vindictive, he countered. It's just stepping back, letting things take their natural course without my intervention. The systems are complicated. Things glitch sometimes. I studied his face, searching for signs of the anger I felt on his behalf. But all I saw was a calm resolve that both impressed and worried me. Sleep on it, I suggested. We'll decide in the morning. He nodded and stood to leave, but paused at the door. For what it's worth, I didn't build that system to fail. I built it to be amazing. That's on them, not me. After he left, I sat in the darkness, his words echoing in my mind. I'd always taught Aiden about integrity, doing the right thing even when no one was watching. But I'd also taught him about self-respect and not allowing people to take advantage of his kindness. Where was the line between those lessons? The next morning, over breakfast, Aiden seemed lighter somehow, as if having made peace with the situation. "I've been thinking," he said, pushing his cereal around in the bowl. "Let's not say anything to Aunt Lorraine. Let the party happen." "Are you sure?" I asked, studying him carefully. He nodded. "I want to see if they can pull it off without me. And I've got that doting competition this weekend anyway." I'd forgotten about the competition, an event he'd been preparing for months before Chloe's party had taken over our lives. It was exactly the kind of achievement that our family typically overlooked. "That's probably healthier than dwelling on their party," I agreed, relief mingling with lingering anger. "We'll focus on your competition instead." "Great," he said, with more enthusiasm than I'd heard in weeks. Tyler's dad offered to drive us both. As he gathered his school things, I made a decision of my own. I wouldn't send that email, wouldn't pull the financial support I'd promised. Not because Lorraine deserved it, but because I wanted to be better than the pettiness that defined her world. More importantly, I wanted to honor Aiden's choice to walk away with dignity. Still, I couldn't entirely suppress the small, vindictive part of me that hoped something would go wrong. That without Aiden's expertise, some aspect of the elaborate system would fail. It wasn't my proudest moment, but it was honest. "Have a good day," I called as he headed out the door. He turned back with a genuine smile. "You too, Mom. And don't worry about Chloe's party. What goes around comes around, right?" There was something in his voice, a note of certainty rather than hope that made me wonder if walking away was really all he had planned, but I pushed the thought aside. My son had integrity. Whatever happened at that party, he would hold his head high. What I didn't realize then was how thoroughly his absence would speak for itself. I spent the morning of Chloe's party driving Aiden to his coding competition, deliberately keeping myself busy to avoid thinking about the elaborate celebration my money had funded. The school gymnasium was packed with teenagers hunched over laptops, the air electric with competitive energy. Aiden seemed in his element, exchanging technical jargon with his teammates as they set up their station. "You sure you don't want me to stay?" I asked, lingering by the door. He shook his head. "The first round takes 3 hours. Go grab lunch or something. I'll text you updates." I hugged him quickly and left, trying not to think about how different this scene was from the garden extravaganza happening across town. Here, talent and hard work were being celebrated without glitter or Instagram posts. I was halfway through a solo lunch at a nearby cafe when my phone buzzed. Expecting a message from Aiden, I was surprised to see Lorraine's name instead. "Where are you? Need you here now? DJ can't get the system working properly." I stared at the message, feeling a complex mix of vindication and worry. Part of me wanted to ignore it completely, but curiosity won out. I paid my bill and drove to the venue, telling myself I was just going to observe. The garden looked stunning as I approached, white tents glowing in the afternoon sun, flowers and greenery artfully arranged, tables set with elegant place settings. But the atmosphere was tense. The DJ was frantically pressing buttons on his equipment while a technician crouched behind the main console, surrounded by cables. Lorraine spotted me and rushed over, her perfectly applied makeup not quite hiding the panic in her eyes. "Finally, where's Aiden? The projectors are glitching, and none of these people understand how to fix it." "Aiden's at his coding competition," I replied calmly. "Remember the one he mentioned weeks ago when you were planning the date for this party?" Lorraine blinked, momentarily thrown by my calm demeanor. "Well, can you call him? This is an emergency. Guests arrive in an hour, and the welcome sequence isn't working." "He's in the middle of competing right now," I said. "His phone is off, but he has to come. Everything's falling apart. The technician says the entire system is password protected and has some kind of, what did he call it?" She turned to the harried-looking man examining the equipment. "Authentication protocol," he supplied without looking up. "I can't access the main controls without it. Your nephew built quite a sophisticated system here." I couldn't help the small swell of pride at hearing Aiden's work praised by a professional. "Did he leave instructions?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "Yes," Lorraine snapped, gesturing to the folder on a nearby table, "but they might as well be written in hieroglyphics. None of us understand what they mean." I picked up the folder and flipped through pages of meticulously documented code, diagrams, and troubleshooting steps. Aiden had indeed left comprehensive instructions for someone with basic technical knowledge, which, clearly, no one here possessed. "I can try calling him after his competition round ends," I offered, "but I can't promise anything." Lorraine looked like she might burst into tears of frustration. "This is a disaster. Chloe's been getting ready for hours. Her makeup artist came all the way from the city. As if summoned by her name, Chloe appeared from the house, resplendent in a couture dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She walked with the careful poise of someone trying not to wrinkle perfection. Mom, is everything fixed? Maddie just texted that they're leaving now, so they'll be early." Her voice faltered as she noticed the technicians still working on the equipment. "Why isn't it working yet?" "We're trying, sweetheart," Lorraine said, plastering on a reassuring smile. "Your Aunt Animal is going to call Aiden to help us." Chloe's perfect features contorted into an expression of entitled irritation. "Why isn't he already here? He set everything up." The irony of her indignation left me momentarily speechless. "He wasn't invited," I reminded her quietly. "Remember?" A flicker of discomfort crossed her face before she dismissed it with a toss of her expertly styled hair. "Well, he should still come fix it. That's his job." "Actually," I said, maintaining my calm, "it wasn't his job at all. He volunteered his time and expertise as a favor to your family. And he's currently at a competition that could lead to college scholarships. So no, he won't be coming to rescue your party." Before either of them could respond, the first guests began to arrive. A cluster of girls in formal dresses, phones already out and recording their entrance. The DJ made a desperate attempt to start the welcome sequence. And for a moment, it seemed like it might work. Soft lights illuminated the pathway, and gentle music began to play. Then everything glitched. The projectors flickered, sending distorted images across the garden. The music skipped, then cut out entirely. The photo booth screen froze on its loading screen. One by one, each element of Aiden's carefully designed system failed. Chloe's grand entrance, meant to be accompanied by a magical light display and personalized music, instead happened under the harsh glare of regular garden lights hastily turned on by panicking staff. Her friends still cheered and took photos, but the atmosphere of enchantment that thousands of dollars and weeks of work had been meant to create was noticeably absent. As more guests arrived, I watched from a distance as Lorraine attempted to salvage the situation, laughing too loudly as she explained that they were experiencing minor technical difficulties. Chloe, to her credit, tried to maintain her smile, but I could see her growing distress as guests began whispering and the expected social media moment fizzled. My phone buzzed with a text from Aiden. "Made it through first round. How's the party?" I looked around at the beautiful venue with its failing technology and typed back, "Let's just say they're learning what they paid for." I didn't stay at the party for long. There was something uncomfortable about watching the slow-motion collapse of what should have been Chloe's perfect day, even if a small part of me felt it was deserved. As I drove home, I pushed away thoughts of the garden party and focused instead on Aiden's competition. By evening, when I picked him up from school, Aiden was riding high on his team's success. They'd advanced to the final round scheduled for the following weekend. "We crushed the database challenge," he explained, eyes bright with excitement as we drove home. "The judge said our solution was the most elegant they'd seen in the competition's history." "That's amazing," I said, genuinely thrilled for him. "I'm so proud of you." He grinned, then hesitated before asking, "How was the party?" I considered sugarcoating it but opted for honesty. "Not great. Without you there to manage the technical aspects, things fell apart pretty quickly." Aiden nodded, expression thoughtful rather than triumphant. "I figured that might happen. The system needed someone who understood the integration points." "You're not secretly pleased?" I asked, giving him a sideways glance. He shrugged. "I built something cool. It's not my fault they couldn't make it work." After a pause, he added, "But I'm not going to pretend I'm sad about Chloe's Instagram moment getting ruined." We shared a small smile of understanding. Not malicious, just the quiet acknowledgement that actions have consequences. The next day passed without any word from Lorraine, which was unusual after any family event. Typically, she would flood the family group chat with photos, videos, and effusive thanks to everyone involved. The silence spoke volumes. It was 2 days after the party when my phone finally rang with her number. I was working in my home office, reviewing client proposals, when the call came through. "Hello, Lorraine," I answered, keeping my tone neutral. "Amelia." Her voice lacked its usual energy. "We need to talk about what happened at Chloe's party." "I heard there were some technical difficulties," I said mildly. "Some difficulties. It was a disaster." The familiar dramatic flair returned to her voice. "Half the guests left early. Chloe's big moment, the birthday message animation thing, never played at all. And the photo booth just showed error codes all night." I made a sympathetic noise but offered no solutions. "Chloe's devastated," Lorraine continued. "She says it was the worst birthday of her life. All her friends' posts are about how things kept breaking down instead of how magical it was supposed to be." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I was partly. No child deserves a ruined birthday, even one as privileged as Chloe. But lessons rarely come without some discomfort. "We saved the footage from what did work," Lorraine pressed on. "Can Aiden come fix the files so we can at least have a video to remember it? Something Chloe can share that doesn't look like a technical catastrophe." The request was so perfectly in character that I almost laughed. No acknowledgement of why Aiden hadn't been there in the first place. No recognition of the injustice. Just another demand for his talents while dismissing his feelings. I smiled, though she couldn't see it through the phone. "Sorry, he's busy working on a project for the mayor's office. They loved what he did for your party, even if you didn't." "The mayor's office?" Lorraine's voice shifted from plaintive to interested. "What do you mean?" "One of the parents at the competition works for the city's cultural events department," I explained. "They saw Aiden's portfolio, including screenshots of the work he did for Chloe's party, and immediately offered him a paid position, helping with the summer festival lighting and interactive displays." The silence on the other end was deeply satisfying. That's wonderful," Lorraine finally managed, though I could hear the strain in her voice. "I always knew Aiden was talented." "Did you?" I asked softly. "Because I recall you referring to his work as tinkering with gadgets just a few weeks ago." Another painful silence. "Amelia, let me save us both some time," I interrupted, my voice firm but not unkind. "I don't want an apology if it's not genuine. What I want is for you and Chloe to understand something. My son may not be the type of person you think belongs at your parties, but his gifts are valuable and deserving of respect. Not just when you need them, but always." Lorraine started to protest, but I continued. "The money I spent on Chloe's party was never about the party itself. It was about supporting family, but family goes both ways, Lorraine, and excluding Aiden after he worked so hard for you both, that wasn't family. We didn't think." "That's exactly right. You didn't think about how it would feel for him. And that's the lesson here." After we hung up, I sat quietly at my desk, hoping my words had made an impact. It wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about growth, the kind that only comes when we're forced to see ourselves clearly. Later that week, a small package arrived for Aiden. Inside was a handwritten note from Chloe, awkwardly apologizing for not inviting him to the party and thanking him for his work. Beneath it lay a gift card to his favorite tech store. "Progress," Aiden commented with a small smile, tucking the note away. The following month, when Aiden's team won the coding championship, I posted numerous photos celebrating their victory. Among the congratulatory comments was one from Lorraine. "Our family is so proud of you, Aiden. Your talent amazes us all." It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. A recognition that true worth isn't measured by how well you fit into someone else's idea of success. My son may not be their kind of golden, but as his opportunities continued to grow in the months that followed, it became increasingly clear that he shines brighter than any of them had ever realized.